thank you. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate for your time in the session. And particularly if we talk about the topic as we shared earlier, today we will be talking about the introduction about the plugin, how you can set up, develop, as well as how you can make your business logic to be customized based on the business requirement that you are encountering. Before we are starting our session, a small housekeeping stuff. If you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself by the time that you speak, or you can post your question on the chat. And we will be publishing our recording after we finish off, hopefully very soon. It's totally because as I remember for last couple of sessions, we were having some delays. So hopefully this will not be happen again. And once again, really appreciate for your time and the cooperation. And if you want to catch up with our previously recorded session, then you can visit our YouTube channel, as well as all of the presentations and the notes. They are already available on our OneDrive folder. So just to remind, we are a part of business apps session, Urdu Hindi Bootcamp, which is going to be organized after 2 days from 3rd November to 6th November. We will highly recommend you to get the opportunity, means to grab the opportunity, get yourself registered and be a part of that particular session, because you will be seeing and listening a lot of amazing presenters, industry experts. So that's a complete you can say journey that you are going to grab it there, and you will have a chance to build your network, as well as you can be part of that particular journey. Specifically, if we talk about the technology, what the Microsoft has offers, and what are the new technologies, or based on the topics, there will be a lot of stuff that you will be learning during these sessions. So particularly these sessions are online, as well as there are some, you can say it's a kind of the hybrid session. So day 2 and day 4, they are the online sessions, and I think day 1 and day 3, they are the on-site. And I think the registration is open from the people who wants to attend the day 2, 3, and 4. So you are open to register. And for this particular session, we will be also part of that journey. And on Sunday, this coming Sunday, on November 6th, first session is going to be done by Wahaj. He will be talking about sequences, means how you can do the work, specifically if we talk about the sales accelerator enhancement by using the sequence. So I believe Wahaj will also explain more about his session. And on the same time, not same time, after you can say the Wahaj session, I will be conducting my session. Specifically, we will be talking about the business process mapping, evolution, and re-engineering stuff. So that's a kind of the process journey that would require to modify, and how you are going to build the solution from legacy to a automated solution. So this is what the complete ecosystem I would like to discuss during that particular session. Yes, Naveed, you have any question?
Yes, sir. I have a question. It is on Sunday your session, but which URL has been given on the below the pakistanusergroup.com that slash schedule.
Mhm.
So by accessing this URL, we can access your online session, na?
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
Actually, if I just show you this particular part here,
Mm-hmm.
the first part is this one. We will recommend you to just go and register yourself by filling up the form. It's very, you can say, quite a basic one, and where you can just fill up which session that you are going to attend. So just like
Mm-hmm.
for registration purpose. But for the on-site event, which is going to be happen on day 3, where it is scheduled Selani Welfare Trust IT Mass Training Center. So this is what you can visit, and you can also part of that particular, you can say, the discussion that is going to be happen. And in day 4 and even day 2, they are the online one, so you simply just click here and you can directly join the session. So but we will recommend you just register yourself, so that you will be keep posting whenever is there any future session is going to be happen, any event is going to happen, so you will be get notified. Okay.
Right,
And
right.
from
Thank you
here,
very
you
much.
will find some below. First session is with Wahaj, and then I have the another session. And you can also see the tracks also. There are some CE tracks. There is also independent track, and there are some certain BI as well as FO tracks. So based on your interests, whatever the track that you are more interested, you can be a part of it, because you can see there are some parallel activities are going on. So you can see the Power BI track as well as the C track, they are, and also the FO track. So they are in parallel. So you just need to identify which track that you are interested, which you can just directly join that session and you will be part of that conversation.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much, sir.
no problem. Okay, so what we are going to do in today's session, we will be talking about the plugin, and Wahaj, he will uh, give a complete, you can say, overview, and he will guide us about the architecture as well as what are the, you can say, development tricks or what are the requirements that we are looking for it. So definitely he will walk through us. And then we will be talking about some of the part which is related to the consideration, and we will see how we are going to move for the next upcoming sessions there. So Vaj, I think you can start the discussion
Yes, just
from
one
basic
sec.
to advanced level.
Okay, so what is a plugin? So in short, a plugin is a custom logic or a business logic which is written in a C sharp .NET code, and that can be plugged in within execution pipeline of a system operation. Okay, now there are some heavy words like execution pipeline, system operation. So just to give you an idea, so system operation is any operation that we or action that user do in the system, and it does something on the server side. So first thing to understand is plugin is a code that runs on server. It's not a client side code, it's server code. So as an example, let's say once you create a record in Dataverse or Dynamics 365 customer engagement app, so that create is an operation. So we can inject our code with that create part. It can execute before create, it can execute after create, it can again execute on update, again before update, post update. So there is a code for now you to understand that we can inject in the execution order of a system operation, but it has to be a trigger or a system operation. Like you can take an example of database triggers, right? Where you can write triggers to on specific table operation like create of record, update of record, delete of record. Similarly, you can also write your own logic in Dataverse when a table operation or system operation is performed. Okay. Why we use it on a higher level? Mostly it is used for data manipulation scenarios. I have some examples that I will show you. Then validations. This is important because before committing the changes, this is something you can do with plugin. So that means when the record even is not saved, you can still verify some logic or inject your logic to maybe apply some validations or do some other operations. Um, Again, cancel an operation based on validation. Let's say you do not want a contact to be created if it has already there is already a contact in the system with the same email. This is just a basic example. Of course, this can be done with the duplicate detection rules in the system, but just to give you an idea, this logic can be complex. But I mean, the key point here is you can stop from this happening. So that means with the plugin, you can stop also from to you can stop a system operation also. So that means it is part of the system transaction. So that is also one thing. Will again just give me some time. I'll explain you. Then if you want an immediate response to user, in that case, again, this would be a CE server side, not on the client side. Okay, then we can apply some actions, retrieve values. We can fulfill some values based on our logic. And let's say we want to fulfill some data before the record is even written to the database. In that case, also we can use plugins. Okay. There is another scenario called where some triggers will not be available in the workflow or the Power Automate flows. So you see, we can do a lot with the process. For example, this validation can also be done with the process. But if I give you an example now, let's say I write in workflow, it is very hard for me to do a retrieve of multiple records. Let's say I want to save the contact, and on save, I want to get all the contacts and check if any of the contact has the email which user entered for this new contact. That is something you cannot do with the workflow. So that is one use case where we can easily utilize plugins, because plugins will give you liberty to write your own code to retrieve data from the system using writing your own queries or fetch XML. Then uh, one more thing, workflows or even Power Automate flows run on some limited triggers. For example, you can run on create of a record, update of a record, delete of a record, assignment of a record, status change of the record, or on demand. But these covers a lot of scenarios, but still there will be scenario where you want to inject your own code. For example, qualify lead is an action in the system and you want to start your code or write something, some logic on qualification. So you can trigger your code on the qualification. Another example, there is no way you can write a workflow to do some logic when user opens the record or retrieves the record. But with plugin, you can also write code when a user retrieve a list of records. So we call it retrieve multiple. So again, there are long list of messages, but I will cover just few for your understanding. Okay, so basic flow, how it works is there's CRM runtime, of course. So this Dataverse runtime means the core operation, like create, the CRUD operations, whatever is operation that is called the core operation. So you can inject your logic within, before or after that core operation. You can, and then we'll see there are two types of your execution of your plugin code. Either it could be sync or async, same like workflow, background workflow or real-time workflow. So real-time workflow for plugin is called synchronous plugin, and background workflow for in case of plugins we'll call it asynchronous plugins. So it depends. If it is sync plugin, it runs on a different service which is called as sandbox service, and asynchronous code runs on we call it async service. So Microsoft at the backend has two different Windows services. Again, it doesn't matter because mostly now we use cloud. But just for your knowledge, let's say if sometimes your plugin code or any plugin is not getting executed, so you need to see if it is async or sync, and you can restart those services. This is for only for on-premise environments. Okay. Okay, then high level operation works as the same way, I would say mostly as workflows. We have our clients, we have backend system, and then synchronous and asynchronous business logic here in the blue box will come, and you can append your logic before or after the system operation. Now, let's, I would say I'll even skip this one and come to this important slide. So here we can see we have a transaction. So you know that every all the OLTP based systems has transaction system like database, right? So we have start of the transaction where we can do pre-operation. We can handle pre-operational logics. Then there is an actual database operation which is highlighted here in blue, which we in this case called system operation, and then the post operation. So if I take an example of, let's say, SQL Server table, and there is an employee table in that, once you insert a record in that table, so before insertion you can do some operations, and after insertion you can do some operations. Similarly, in the Dataverse, let's say contact. So as soon as you user create a new form, type some data and click on save, we can inject the code before it is even written to the database. So the transaction starts from there. And then let's say we write our validation, and if the validation passed, then the record is written and in the database. And after that, the post operation, if there is any plugin or custom code, that will execute. So if it is sync, it you can fail that validation to throw error. So whole operation, whole transaction is rolled back. For async, of course, it doesn't work in this way. That happens after the operation is completed. So you cannot hold the actual transaction. So that means the contact will be saved to the database, and after a while, the system will execute your code. So that's the main difference between sync and async. So in the sync operation, you can abort the main operation. Let's save of contact, delete of contact, update of contact, create of account, again any table that is through qualify of lead. Let's say you want to apply some logic to qualify. Once as soon as you hit the qualify button on the lead, you want to stop if they have not, let's say, attached document called offer send offer details or something like that, or you do not want a code to be closed unless there is a proposal attached, right? So that kind of things you can do with a plugin. So you can, because you can abort the operation, actual operation. Okay. Okay, now the question is how we can plug in business logic in the database. So I know there are too many things here, but this will slowly I will be able to develop the whole logic once we do an example. So how we can, okay, first of all, why to plug in business logic that we discussed, right? We have a lot of ways to do that. We had business rules, we had workflows, we have Power Automate flows. Then why plugins? So as I said, one particular reason is you can abort the actual transaction of the system if required. Secondly, there are things that you definitely not always can do with the low code or no code environment. You sometimes you really need write to write your custom logic in language like C sharp.net. In that case, of course, that's one scenario. Second, there are messages, or we call it triggers, which are not available in Power Automate or workflows. So in that case, also you have to come to the plugin. Yeah. And one more thing, the plugins also are kind of state aware. So that means if you are writing a code which runs on pre-create of account, so in that case, uh, sorry, post of an account or post of an contact, it can have both data pre and post. So that means, let's say you updated a contact's email, right? You can compare the previous and existing email. So another example is, let's say if you want to create a log that what value was changed from the existing to the new value, you can only get in the plugins. That won't give, the workflows will not give you this information. So plugins has pre-data which was existing, and then what is going to be updated. So both data you can get in the uh, execution pipeline. Okay. Now, how we can plug in our logic in the Dataverse or Dynamics 365. So first of all, very simple. You have a scenario. Based on the scenario, you need to define or identify what is the primary table. Second step, or entity, table or entity, it's the same thing. Then identify what is a trigger. We call it here message. So message means trigger, like create, update, delete. It's the same thing. Then we'll identify execution order. Do we need to call it before the record is saved or updated or deleted or after it? Then we identify what is the data that we need to perform our business logic or operation. When I say business logic, that means, let's say we are comparing previous email with the new one, so on. And then we, let's say, notify the user or update some data, that is our operation. So if I put this into perspective, let's take one example. We say, okay, throw an error if the contact with same email exists. So that means we will not allow user to create a contact with the same email. So in this case, what we will do, we will first say our primary table is contact. So we are working with contact. We call it target. In the plugin, we'll get it as a target. So this is your target record or table. Then trigger, which is our message. We'll say, okay, we want to run this logic on create. So our target was create contact messages create. So we'll run this logic of create of contact. Then what is our execution order? It should be pre or post. For my understanding, I don't even want to save the record. Why it should be written to the database, right? It should not. Let me, before even it is saved, let me check if there is already a contact existing with the same email. So we'll check if we found an existing uh, contact with the same email, we'll throw the error and we'll abort the transaction. So database itself will not be written to the database. Uh, for some other scenario, we'll see post. So then what is the most? Do we want to run it sync or async? This is very obvious that we cannot run this logic as async. Again, async, what it will do? It will first save the contact, and like background workflow, it will execute after a while, where as soon as system gets the resources. So that means a contact is saved, and after let's say 20 seconds, the plugin will, as an example, 20-30 seconds or a minute, the plugin code will execute. So there is no point of validation. The record is already created. So definitely it has to be sync, which means part of the same transaction, right? So we'll do it in the real time. Then identify the data needed for this business logic, where we just need the contact's email. Okay. Another example, excuse me. Let's say we have a field called credit limit on the account. Let's say we put, once we create a account, the account management team there adds, let's say, $100,000 is the credit limit of this uh, account. Okay, so we say, okay, in this case, we want to, as soon as a sales order is created, we need to get the total amount from the sales order and reduce the credit limit. So now what I understand, okay, for me, for this scenario, my primary table will be sales order. My trigger will be create or update, because even if I update the amount in that case also, so I can do both. I can run the same code with the both. So that's another important point when you compare it with the workflow. So workflow also can run on both, but the point here is it will give you full control. Like if when you are updating, you can compare the existing values also. So anyway, so we know, okay, we will run it on the both, create an update, and this can be post. I don't mind. I don't want it real time. Also, that's why I said async. But this is a debate that can be done with the business. Do we need it to reduce the amount or sync or async? So wherever we can avoid sync, I would definitely say avoid sync. But for me, or as per my experience, this is not something very critical, because what happens if you do it sync and let's say any execution error or any exception or anything occurs, user won't able to update or save the order, right? The sales order you won't able to do because we did it sync. It will, the whole transaction will fail. So what we said, no, that's okay. Let the user save it. We can wait for some time, and also will save the resources, because if you write everything real time, the performance is also impacted, because with the system operation you are also running your own operations, and it depends what you're doing the code, so that can also take time, so it can delay the save of the record in this scenario. So we say fine, async is okay. So as soon as the data is saved, sale order is saved, we'll wait for some time, and the system will automatically execute our code, and it will go and reduce the minus that amount from the account's credit limit. So in this case, we see the data is, we need the order's total amount, and we also need account's credit limit. So business logic is very clear. We'll take that amount, and the operation is very clear. We take the credit limit minus the total amount and then update and save the account. You see, in this case, we are not saving or doing any operation on the primary or the target table. We are updating a parent table, which we can get from uh, sales order. Because we know on the sales order, there's a lookup called parent customer or the customer ID. So we can get the account from there. Okay, add an example. I say do not allow credit limit increase more than 20% of existing limit. Let's take same example. Let's say we had 100,000. Now uh, the finance team request that it's okay, you can go ahead, or sorry, sales team request that increased his customer's credit limit to 150,000. So that's almost a 50%. That's actually a 50% increase. So this as a SOP, we have decided no, we cannot increase by 20%. That is not allowed, or we'll have a special process or maybe approval process for that, but not straight away user can go and increase the limit. So in this case, this is a very different case before. Why? See, our primary table is account. The trigger again, create or update when you're creating an account. Oh, sorry, my bad. It should be update because on create there is no existing limit. This is my mistake. So execution order definitely pre, because I want to stop before it is written to the database or this actual record is saved, the operation is completed. Then mode is sync. Again, validations mostly go with sync. So or we could I think I can confidently say always go with sync and pre. In some cases could be post, but sync is for sure because you want to stop something from happening. That's the validation, right? Then data that we need is account and its credit limit. So why I said, if you see in the bracket, I say pre-change. That means when the user, let's say, go to the account, the limit was 100,000. He types now 150,000 and hit the save button. At that time, we need to write a logic to compare it with the existing amount. So in the pre-operation, I can see what user was what user has entered as a new value, and there is something called images that we'll cover later, which can give you data which was before updating this. So we'll get the 100,000 also and 150,000 also. So we can compare and get the percentage. We say no, boss, this is more than 20%. So let's throw an error and we say, hey user, you cannot go exceed the value by 20%. So you have to be in this bracket to update the credit limit. uh, One more scenario here, which I have not written on the slide, can be, which I'll explain, is let's say we are reducing the credit limit. We can also say we will not allow a sales order to be fulfilled. So in the CRM, there is an operation called fulfill of order, which means the order is completed. So we will not allow order to be completed if the total amount exceeds the credit limit of the account. So in that case also it's more of a validation. So this will go as a pre and sync. So you won't able to fulfill, and this one we don't even have to do an update. Run the code on update. I guess there is a message called or trigger called fulfill order. So we can directly trigger there. So that's the power of plugins. Okay, so we saw three examples. I guess you will get a little context here, what we are trying to do. Then let's discuss more on a little bit on the messages, because this can get confusing. Normally the term is used called triggers. So trigger, again, we can call them messages, or we always call them messages when we are working with plugins in the Dynamics 365 or Dataverse system. Okay. So plugins, sorry, messages are triggers. Some examples are create, update, delete, retrieve, multiply, qualify lead, assignment, uh, share. So there are more. Now you see there is no way to write a workflow when a record is shared with another user, but you can write your code to execute plugin on that. Okay. So I guess you have some idea of messages now. Again, we'll see in this, once we implement a plugin, we'll see more in the context. Okay. So what kind of tools we need for plugin development? Very basic. We need Microsoft .NET Framework, preferably 4.6.2. You can write a plugin on the latest versions also, but anything after 4.6, if you use a feature which is not available, was not available in the 4.6.2, your code will not work. So I recommend, unless Microsoft says, don't go any further. This should be sufficient for plugin development. Then, of course, Microsoft Real Studio, you can use Community, Professional, Enterprise, your favorite, or whatever you have. That's fine. Community Edition is free and that works pretty well. No need to pay in case you don't need that. Then, of course, we need the Microsoft Dataverse or Dynamics 365 SDK. So there is a, I would say, particular tool in that SDK. So SDK has multiple tools. We just take a look. It's called plugin registration tool. So once you have written your code, Now you need to register it, let's say on create of the contact or update on the contact. So that to do that, you have to use this registration tool. So this tool will take your assembly and upload on the server, and you will define or configure when to and how to execute this. Like all of that information, we'll say primary table is contact, the plugin will execute on create message, and then it will run pre or post. So that kind of things will configure in the plugin registration tool. Okay, now before I go there, sorry, I will actually quickly show you this part. Okay. How we get this plugin development tool. So Dataverse has these tools. There is a configuration migration tool. This is used to move configurational data from one system, one environment to another. Let's say we're working on the dev and you want to move it to production or UAT or test environment. You can use this to utility. Um, then there is a package deployer, this to deploy packages, then plugin registration tool, PRT in short. So this is something we are interested in today. Then there is a solution packager tool. This one is used to package the components in one solution, and then code generation tool. This one actually sorry, generates early bound classes. Again, not this is not a topic for today. For and like to be used in the link, so you can easily query Dynamics 365 or Dataverse data. Okay, now how you can download this? You can simply, you first have to install the pack, which is Power Apps Component Framework. We share this link. You can go ahead and just install the pack tools. So once the tool is there, you can use this command, which is called pack space tool space PRT. So once this is done, this will download a plugin registration tool folder for you, which is then an executable file, and it can be used uh, to register your plugin code. So as an example, if I go to, sorry, one second, I'll open the folder just to show you how it looks once it is downloaded. First, sorry. Yeah, I will open it. Okay. So for example, this is how it was installed. There is a folder, plugin registration tool. So all of these tools are available. I downloaded this, and this is the plugin registration tool, and this is the executable file called plugin registration.exe. You can create a shortcut to this also, or you can access from the start menu and then double click it. This will launch it. Again, we'll just see it in a while. Okay. So once you have the tools installed, you have the plugin registration tool. Next thing is, of course, writing the code. So before we go there, let's quickly check it out. Okay, so how to write a plugin? Again, they're very simple steps I'll put for you. One, you need we need to create a C#.NET framework class library project. So the project type should be class library and should be C#.NET framework, not C# as a .NET uh, core, the normal .NET framework we need. And then we will install this Microsoft.crm SDK.core assemblies through NuGet package. You can use a NuGet console or package manager. That's your choice. And then we'll create a class, a C# class. In that we'll uh, implement the interface called live plugin, which is available in the Microsoft.xrm.sdk class, sorry, namespace. And then we'll implement the execute method, which is requirement of this plugin. We cannot, I mean, we need to implement this execute method. In this execute method, we also get the plugin context. So that means this context gives us, first of all the information about our plugin execution or the system operation, like on which operation this plugin is game being executed, what is the primary record type, what is the record ID, so on, and the data of the record. And other than that, it also gives us the services like tracing service, which we can use to provide log information. for our diagnostics. Also, the organization service which can be used to do data operations and system operations, like creating an account, updating the data. For that, we'll use that will organization service. Of course, once we get this, we will write our code. This again, you can write in the, if it is simple thing, you can write directly in the execute method, or of course, you can go ahead and use as many as functions you want to create and call them in the execute method. That's of course your logic. And after that, you have to sign your project with a strong key, because if you do not do that, you cannot upload this using plugin registration tool, so it will not work. And of course, then build the project, and you can take your final DLL file and register that using plugin registration tool. So just sum up, we need the .NET framework. Preferably, we use 4.6.2 version. Then we will install a NuGet package called Microsoft.crm.sdk.core assemblies. We'll create a C# class. We'll just simply, very simple way, we'll just uh, extend it with I plugin interface. Then we implement the execute method. We write our business logic, build it, then sign the project, which is of course one-time activity, and then plugin registered with the plugin registration tool. So the activity which we'll do in the loop is whenever you update the code or fix something, you again build it and take the latest assembly and upload, re-upload, update it using plugin registration tool. So these are the steps that you mainly need to write a plugin. Okay, let's go to the demonstration now. How much time? Oh my God. Wow. This topic is vast. Sorry, man. I'll try to, yeah, cover how as much possible as we can do. Okay, so first thing first, let's go to the Visual Studio, and I'll take an example. Actually, let's do one thing. I'll create a separate project, I guess. I'll close this one so you can see from the start. So let me say this is my Visual Studio as a new project. I'll take a class library again, .NET framework. Again, don't go for, let me just search just to show you. There are class libraries with .NET Core also, .NET Standard also. We need .NET framework. This is something we need to make sure. Okay, once you select this template, go next. Then again, you wherever you want to store this code, you can do it. You can also start with the Git repository, clone it. That's your choice. I'll just say okay, D4 Dynamics demo plugins, I would say. Again, this is my naming convention. You can try your own. That's totally fine. So I'll create this project. Okay. Once this project is created, you will see we don't have anything in this class. So there are two ways we can rename this class, or what I usually do is I totally go ahead and delete this class first of all, because I'll create my new class. Before I do that, or that doesn't matter, I mean, we can add the class here. So we save class here and we'll name it, let's say, uh, update contact description. I'll just take it as simple as that. Of course, .cs file. And I say add. So you see our class is ready. First thing that I will do is I'll make it public, because this has to be accessible by plugin registration tool. Your if it is private, you won't able to see it in the plugin registration tool. Next thing, we need to install a NuGet package, Microsoft CRM SDK. So they again there are multiple ways you can, if you know the package name, you can use the console and just type in and install it, or I the easier way manage NuGet package for this solution. So here you can search 2 3 terms, all of them work. You can say Microsoft.crm or Microsoft CRM, and you will get all the CRM related or Dynamics 365 related plugins. This is the one we need. Or you can go with the modern name also called Dataverse. That will also work. So the summary that we're looking for, this example is this one, Microsoft.crm.sdk.core.assemblies. I'll just take the latest table project and I've created this one demo plugins, and I'll just install this one on that. So this plugin will give me uh, access to the interface that I want to uh, override, sorry, implement. Yeah, so I'll accept the license terms, and it should install not only this tool, this DLL, reference DLL, but also the other required DLLs will also be available here. So now if I save this, okay, now if I go to my references, you will see I have something called Microsoft.xrm.stk and Microsoft crm.stk.proxy, and of course we are also getting with it service.model.web and other supporting identity model is also important. But these are something you don't have to worry about. Once you install this NuGet package, all the required or dependencies will be automatically installed. Okay, so first thing first, when I'm here, this is my class. My class is there, my NuGet package is there. Okay, what's the scenario? You know what I do is usually, I mean, again, that's my practice. I write to definitely say why I am writing this plugin, so anyone comes in or wanted to update my code, they understand. So I will say purpose. I say update default. Again, I'm just taking a very basic example just to give you a context. We'll do another example also. Update default contact description, right? Okay. And I also the things that I told you, like we say what is the target here, which is our primary table. I say contact. Okay, fine. I'll type it with the lower C, which is the physical name of the table. Then what is the trigger or message? I say this should be only executed on create. Okay. Then operation. I will say this is fine. I'm okay with this post or pre. This is actually pre is also good. So I'll say again, this is my comments which can help us in the future. Not required, of course. You understand that. Then after that, I say fine. This is okay. And the last thing is my what would be my execution mode, and I say this can run in sync and async both. So for this example, actually this is fine with async, but let's say for this example, I'm just taking synchronous. Okay. Now to implement the plugin, I have to extend it with I plugin interface. So I'll just write I plugin. Of course, you can use the using before, but I'm the lazy one. I'll just use the shortcut. It will add it here, and we have it. And next thing it tells us, see, you don't have the interface, the method that we need to implement for this uh, assembly. So we'll say fine, go ahead and implement interface. So you see it automatically implements for us and execute method, which is all we need to run this plugin. And this service provider will give us the context. We call it execution context. So execution context, as the name suggests, will give you information on which table and on which operation and who, even the user information also, who is executing this method. There's more information in that, but let's just focus on now. What is the target? What is the message or trigger? And maybe who is the user if that matters. Okay. Now, of course, if I just register like this will throw the exception, not implemented exception. So we need to give some details here. So first thing is we need the what we usually do is if we are okay, let's take very simple example first. So we definitely need execution context so we can get the actual record id to the record or reference to the record where we want to update the data, the actual contact record. So for that, I'll show you one thing. This link again I will share with you. This is a very simple example, actually the way Microsoft is given. Again, anything everything that I've explained is there. So you can always start like this. And so how we get the context is we use this syntax here. Again, it's not a rocket science, it's very simple. We say to our service provider that get service and we give it type which service we want. We say I plugin execution context, we typecast it, and store it in a object called contacts. Again, you can name it as you want. Similarly, I can also get a tracing service, which is very much recommended. Again, if you don't want to use it, don't do it, but in real life examples we do use it. So what does a tracing service does? So let's say I can use the tracing service object here. Sorry, I say tracing service, and I can use a trace. This is method to uh, write my diagnostic information. Like I say, uh, function starts. This is again not a real-time example, but usually. So if what will happen once my if the plugin trace is enabled in the Dataverse environment, which an admin can do. So whenever my plugin is executed, you will see in the plugin this there is a place in the Dynamics 365 or Dataverse where you can see the log of your plugin in execution. So there you will see in the trace information that this message is printed. You can write any errors in there also, or any other all the verbose information kind of stuff logging thing that will help you to diagnose, but it is not required, but definitely recommended, at least from my side. So whenever you get an issue, at least you have some data to diagnose with, like what's happening or where the code is getting breaked. Okay, so we have the context for this particular example where we just want to update the description of the contact as with the default value. This is enough. Of course, we are not going to do any operation, any like we are not going to create an account or add a note or delete a record. So we don't need this web service for now, for today, for this example. Okay. Now the question is what we want to do. What the context has. If I just go ahead and do the dot, you will see this will give us all the information like business unit depth is something I will explain. This is very important. Then who is the initiating user? If there is any parameters passed, that will be from the input. Then the plugins, one good thing about plugins which is not available in the workflow, plugins can work offline also. So why you will say why this is a web application, why offline? So mobile apps and Microsoft Dynamics 365 app for Dataverse or Dynamics 365 sales, that app can also work in offline. So you can still write your validations that can work offline. Of course, if it requires the data to be loaded from the server side, then you have to modify that logic, but you can run. Then is in transaction will give you information. So I'll skip most of it. For us, the main thing is called sorry, second. Okay. So what we need is I'll just again to save time copy paste some of the code. Okay. So if you see, I'll explain this code. This is something important. So you see the context has input parameters, and in that we just check if it is contain the target. So target is the entity on which the code is executed. So in some cases, this could be other stuff other than a table record also. But again, let's forget about that. So let's say this is a safe or foolproof, I would say, code that we write where we check that this code is executed for a table. Of course, I can do one more check here, which will I will show. Then we can get the actual entity here. So this entity object gives us the record which is being on which the operation is being. So let's see if it is a contact which is being created, we'll get that record or all of the data through entity object. Or if you're updating it, that again will get through the entity. So what does this entity object has? It will have all the information like ID of the record. Again, ID, if it is create, definitely the ID is still not saved if you're running on the pre-operation. So these kind of difference is something you need to know. If you're running on the post-operation, which means the data is saved to the database, so you will have the GUID or unique or primary key of this particular contact record or any other record. Then the attributes, these two are main things, the ID and attributes, and there will be one thing called logical name. This gives you uh, the table name, actual table name. So if you have registered it on account, this will contain the account. This is physical name of the table. Okay. The most important one is attributes. This will contain all the data. So all the attributes available in the contact table of, in this example or any other table will be available in the attributes collection. Okay, now let's write it a very simple example. So I'll do two things here. I'll just do if I'll say, hey, if the entity dot logical name dot equals contact. So I'm again adding another layer of I would say protection where I say, hey, cause this plugin registration tool is not aware that you have written this code only for contact. You have to make sure you write the safe code. So even if someone by mistake registered it, let's say on the account entity, and if any exception happens, so then the count operations will not work if it is real time. If it is I mean synchronous, if it is async, the plugin will run, the operation will be completed, but the plugin will fail and keep adding logs to the system again, which is something not good. So we always write uh, this code. Again, you will understand why I'm saying this. Okay, it's not required, but it's recommended. So once this is done, I will do my logic in this. For this example, what I need to do is I will say just entity dot attributes and set the description field. Okay, I know the description name, field name, but this is something you need to make sure if this name is wrong, this field, this plugin will definitely throw exception. So there are other ways you can, of course, so you need to make sure you write the correct names. Uh, by the way, there is a tool, I'm not sure if you guys don't know, we call it Level Up for Dynamic 365. This is very helpful for uh, developers. So if you see in this, I'm on the contact form, and if I want to see the name of the description field, if I have it on the form, interesting. Yeah, let's say this personal note field. Let's forget what field it is. Okay, for our example. So if I want to, normally I want to see the physical name or actual name of this field, I need to definitely go to the customization. We'll open up the either default solution or any solution which contains a contact entity, and then go through the fields and understand what is a field name. So this tool, which is designed for developers, called Level Up for Dynamics, it's a Chrome extension. You can install it. Just search on the Chrome Web Store Level Up for Dynamics 365 or slash Power Apps, and you'll get this tool. So you see it has some interesting features. One of those is called logical name. So if as soon as I click on it, you see it gives me the all fields name like this, even the tabs name also. So if I go to the summary tab, you will see I have all the information here. So I will just stay do one thing. I'll take any field. Let's say I'm just taking job title for our example, so I can show you. I think the description field is not the form, and I won't able to show you the data on the form. By the way, for like business rules or JavaScript, the field should be available on the form because it's on the client side. For this, you don't need plugins works on the back end. So even if the field is not available on the form, it doesn't matter. But of course, to see the change, you need to see it on the form. Okay, so I copy this name, and if I want to turn off the again, go back normal, I can say clear logical names. Okay. And there are many other tools like the if you want the record unique ID of this record, you can click record ID. You can click on this to see all the list of fields available in this record once it is saved, of course. We can open record by ID, and there are many things with shortcuts available which are very useful, I would say. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Hello. Can hear you.
Oh, okay, okay. I think the non screen was stopped, so I was confused. Okay, okay, no problem. Okay, so I took the name. I'll just go in the plugin. I said this. I would just want to update this tool. Let's say IT manager, just one example. I'm just giving it in the default. Okay, so now what will happen once we register this code? As soon as a contact is created, we say the job title is IT manager. Okay, that's all for now. So as a next step, I will Before I deploy this code, of course, I will build it to see if I have any syntax or code errors. So my build is succeeded. Fine. I'll set it as a startup project because I want to work on this one, and I'll go to the properties of the project. This is again one-time activity you want to do for each of your projects, that you need to sign it with a strong key. That is a requirement. What is this? This happens sometimes. Come on. Let me try to move it to the other screen. Yeah, this happens sometimes when you're sharing screen. Okay. So what I will do is I'll go to the signing. I'll say sign this assembly, create a new key. For this one, I'll say D for dynamics dot demo key again. Something. Let's set up a key password. I hope it's the same. Same, good. So I'll just rebuild this one. Okay, once it is built, I go to open containing folder. Go to the bin, because I did it for just the development purpose. I will take it from the debug, of course. You can take it release once you are final on the release part. Okay, I just take the main DLL file, which will be saved, of course, with your project in class lib, sorry, namespace, of course. You take this library. Okay, next thing, which is very important. So you run the plugin registration tool. So once you run the plugin registration tool, what happens is it will ask you the credentials. One second, I'll just pull the screen here. Okay, one second, guys. Yes, it has something that I don't want to show. Let me do one thing. I will stop sharing and share my other screen on purpose. Okay, once you see the screen, let me know.
Yes, sir. The screen is
Okay.
visible.
Okay, so what we do is once we do that, we run this tool, we'll see this create new connection. That once we launch this exe that I showed you earlier, this one, this one, sorry, yeah, plugin registration.exe. This tool is locked. You click on create new connection. You provide your username password of the organization and just click on login. Okay, for on premises, you have to provide the server port and all. But again, if we are mostly working with the online or Dataverse, this should be enough. Once that is done, this of course will have, I just purposely removed the my credentials from here, but of course you can provide. And once that is done, again, sorry, I'll just now move it to the bigger screen so it's more visible for you. Yeah. So it loads all the assemblies available or already registered in your organization or in that particular instance. So there are plenty of Microsoft's own uh, assemblies available, and this is where we'll also install our own. So there is a search here also available. This is very important that you get familiar with this tool. So here we see the assemblies. Once we expand assembly, we also see a step. Okay. Let me just disable this one. I'll tell you why I did that, because this is something I was trying or testing. I don't want this to break. Okay, so in short, assemblies has the plugin class and that has the step. We'll see this just shortly. Okay, so it's similarly, Microsoft has also their own assemblies which support overall system operations. So once you want to register, first thing first, you have to click on the register new assembly. Click on this one. Here you browse to the location of your uh, plugins DLL. You just do that and it gives you all the plugins available in the class. When I say all the plugin, I can have multiple classes and all of these classes can implement iPlugin. So let's say I create one assembly for one project, and I keep adding update contact description that, let's say, it was the reduce credit limit. So I can add, and then that will show up here like this, multiple plugins. So that definitely depends. You can do module wise, you can do project wise. That is your logic, how you want to do. You can of course have multiple projects also, but that doesn't, of course, mostly we use common projects based on modules or features. Okay. So if you have multiple, will have, you can uncheck any of the plugins. If you uncheck, that means that plugin will not be deployed or removed. So for now, yeah, we want to deploy this plugin. Then there are some other specifications you want to provide. The one is the isolation mode. See, in the online, we should always run the assembly in sandbox, and you cannot choose none. This is only available in the on-premise environments where you have done the installation on your local servers. So the difference is the sandbox is more secure and run more secure, but this has some reduced functionality, like you cannot access the file system using C Sharp.NET because this is running on the cloud and all. So this is more secure and more recommended. Then we use specify the location again on the online. The only way is to use the database. That means the assembly will be uploaded to a table as a DLL file inside your Dataverse. So system will do that. I for online I cannot should not go for disk because I do not have access to the disk. Or in on-premise I can deploy it on a disk, which is a folder in bin folder I gets of the one of the servers. So again, like you deploy any DLL in for your own applications also, but here you always go with database if it is cloud, sandbox and database, and it's safe because why database? Once you move it from one environment to other, the assembly will be automatically moved. If you add to the solution, you don't have to deploy it or register in the global assembly cache like GAC or disk or a file store. Okay, so that's all that we need. We say register selected plugins. Awesome. If it was not strongly signed, we'll get some error. Or if the class was private, we won't able to see this here. So now you can see we have the assembly here. See, I have two assemblies there because I was testing something before. So I don't want to confuse you with this. So just to show you another example, we can also unregister assembly. For that, we just right click here and say unregister. So this will now remove this TLL along with all the other configurations from this instance. Okay. So now this is assembly. Now this will not execute. This is just, it's like you build your solution, take the executable files and deploy on the server. Now the most important step is the execution configuration, where we tell the system how to execute my code, when to execute my code. So we just right click on that and say register new step. So first was assembly. Once we have the assembly, now step is the information where we define where to execute this code. I click on the register new step. Now this has some very important information. So today I will only cover the required ones. There are other also that we will cover in the upcoming session. So as I told you, first thing we need the message. We want to run, remember, on the create, but you can see there are a list of messages available which is not available in any workflow or Power Automate. So that's why we use plugins whenever we need to run code on one of these operations or triggers or messages. You will see we also have update, we have delete. Now just to show you the power, you see we also have update entity, which means if you are customizing a table on that also you can run the code. So anyways, for our normal operations, we use create, we use update, we use delete, we sometimes also use retrieve and retrieve multiple. This once you click on in the system, let's say if you click on this button for your knowledge, let's see if you click on the leads. So this one is retrieve multiple. So this one is running retrieve multiple. So if you want to run a logic when user retrieves the data, not only from this view, from a web API or advanced find or anywhere, uh, you can run on the retrieve also. When I open and one record, that is retrieve. But anyhow, our most used messages are create, update, and then delete, and more than that, less than that, I would say retrieve multiply. You'll see we have qualified lead, we have assign, we have share, we have fulfill. Fulfill also is there. We have resolve case, I guess, incident, so on. Okay, for our example, let's for now stick to the create. Primary entity, contact. We can also relate it to a secondary entity, but again, today I will not cover. Filtering attributes will only work in case of update. So let's say you want to run this code to verify the email on contact when one of these attribute is updated. Let's say for our example, I say deselect all, and only once the email is one of these emails is updated, then only we run the code. So this means this will only run when the account is updated with one of these fields. Okay, for our example, we don't need this. I'll just, as soon as move to create, in the create we don't have filtering attributes because it is only applicable on update. Then I'll just leave it for now. All these default things you can't change for now. Step name and all we can do, but let's keep it default. Run this in the calling user. That means the whoever is the user will be the one being calling. But if you want to execute it with the specific user like an admin user, you can select that user from here. Execution order, let's keep it one as default for now. You can define more description if you want. Then the unsecure and secure configuration is something that we'll cover later, but in that, just to give you an idea, if you want to some pass some configuration like XML, some JSON to your plugin to make it more useful or generic or manageable, you can pass it through unsecure configuration or secure configuration. So if the information is sensitive that you want no one to see, you should always store in the secure configuration, because only the people who has system administrator role can look into secure configuration. Okay, again, we'll see this. How to access this also, we'll see. This is passed in the constructor, I believe, but we'll see. Okay, now the most important part. When you want to execute. So you see, I told you there are two, pre or post, but in reality, we have three options. Pre-validation, I didn't add it in the presentation because I didn't want to confuse you. So mainly you will see there are way two only, pre-operation and post-operation, which means pre-creation of account contact where the date record is not written to the database. Post, after the database is written. One more thing, if you want to do something like add this contact to a particular account, and for that you need ID. So wherever you need the records ID, you need to do it on the post operation, because on the pre operation table is not saved and you do not have ID to do anything with that. Okay, now pre-validation, just to give you, we use it when we want to run the code, even if the user do not have security role to provide this. Let's say I want this as a global operation, and I say as my user even does not have privileges to save the contact. So this one also skips the security. So what happens as soon as you hit the save button, the system first check if you have privilege to do this operation, then the pre-operation will happen, then the system operation which is safe, then post operation. So the pre is the stage between even before the security validation. But again, let's forget it for today. We'll say pre-operation, which is okay. We say, yeah, uh, execution mode, again synchronous or asynchronous that we discuss. In this case, we'll choose post operation can be both async and sync. Pre-operation is, in case of create, is always pre-operation. Sorry, synchronous. The reason is because we want to do it before the record is not even saved. So in that case, this is synchronous. Okay. Deployment will be server. If you want to run it offline also, you can do that also, but for now skip it. Delete this means forget about this. Again, this will be there for racing. If you want to clear up the logs, you can select this like we do it on the workflow, and we say register new step. That's all. So now the system knows that this code should be executed on create of contact pre-operation synchronously. Okay. So now I can go ahead and test it. See, I don't have to, by the way, refresh my system or all because this is on the server. This is not a JavaScript. So now I save a new contact and I say demo test something and I say save. Now my code ideally should be executed. Yeah, you see the job title is automatically set to IT manager. By the way, if it is was post operation, sorry, async, I could not have seen this change. Of course, it will take time update and after that I have to refresh. Just in interest of time, I'll quickly do one more change to the code. You see how rest will definitely cover in the next session. Actual scenarios where we will get data from other entities, create records, save records. So you understand how to play with the organization service within plugin code because that is something you definitely need. There is no point of doing this code is just an example. It's kind of a hello world. Okay. One thing we'll quickly do is I say I'll show you what I'm gonna do, by the way. Let me create one more and call it demo demo test 2. And I say this guy is a sales operation manager. Here, if I save it, you see it overrides our IT manager. So I'm just adding a little logic here. So first I will get what is currently there. How we get it, which is very important. We say, let's say I want to get the job title here and I say entity dot attributes. So there are two ways to do this. Very simple. Attributes, you say job title, you give the name of the attribute and get it. This will return you an object, so you have to typecast it. Because I know it's a string, I can do toString, or otherwise, of course, you can do the referenced, you can do like this also, but I'll just use the simply toString here. We'll discuss the types in multiple, sorry, another session because we have other types like option set values, currency, which will be retrieved in a different way, lookups, related records. So that will be different. So I say if the job title dot equals string dot empty, then do this, otherwise do not do this. Okay. One thing I would clearly tell you, this is not a soft safe code. This will break. Why? One thing very important that you need to know is if user does not enter data in the job title field, this will not even be the part of the attribute collection. So what we are going with say attribute entity dot attributes job title dot toString, because this reference, this object is not there, it will give you a null reference exception because you cannot call this function because there is the object does not exist. So what I you will do, you can add diff and all, of course, to check if it is not null or none. But for me, the easiest way is I say entity dot attributes. We say contains, and I say job titles. Okay, I say if it contains, then you get it to string. Otherwise, we say string dot empty. I mean, I just like it this the shorthand way. What did I miss? I made this right. So you can do with if and else also. That's up to you. I like this way. It's easier. Okay, so now I will see if the job title is empty. We set it. Otherwise, we don't set it. It's clear. I rebuild the code or build the code, and I will take go to my registration update plugin registration tool. I already have the summary. This will execute my existing code. So now I want to update the summary. So I say here, I say update. I choose the updated file, which is this one, right? Say open. Do select it. If you don't, it will remove the plugin. So say update selected plugin. That's all. The plugin is updated. I usually click this save to make sure everything is okay. Poor habit, I guess. And then now if I go ahead and say demo test 3 and I say CEO save. You see, it works. I'll just do one more thing. I'll say also register new step on the same assembly. You see, I'm running the code on the same trigger. Sorry, same code on the different trigger. I say update again on content, also run on the update. When the job title, sorry, select all, deselect all, and I guess here, one second. Sorry, there is no search available here. So you JKLJ, sorry, here, job title. Okay, and I'll go in with the prof for now pre-operation and say synchronous find register step. So now this will run on update also. So now if I go ahead and let's say call it CEO1, save, it should not do anything. It will be like this. But if I remove it completely, so as per our code logic, if there is no data in there, we should able to set it to as default as IT manager. You see, the same code works on the both steps. Okay, so I'll go quickly go back to the presentation and I will say what comes next? There are many things that we need to cover here. One is plugin images. So what is an image? It gives you, as I said, data before update and after update also. So that is something you can access through images. We'll see the tracing, how we can logging and how we can debug the code. Because if something happens, how we can do the debugging, which is very important, which is done using plugin profiler. We'll see that also. Okay, there are quick considerations here. Some is plugins required. Should the special, Alzan, would you like to take from here or should I complete quickly? Because we have spilled the time too much today.
Yeah, better you can continue. No,
Yeah,
no
I'll just,
problem.
I'm in the flow, so I'll do it. Okay. Plugins require the special, yeah. So you need to know the development, especially .NET, and you should be aware with the NuGet packages and all. Except extra on the extra part, you also need to know the plugin registration tool and understand how messages and all work. Okay, for plugins, any operation you do which runs more than 2 minutes, your plugin will not work. I mean, it will simply fail. The system will safely fail it because the other operations are not impacted. But if you're running this in the real time, that means the core operation will not work. So let's say on the create of an account or update of account, you call an API which is taking more than 2 minutes and you do not handle it, your contact will not be saved. The system will simply return timeout exception. Okay, it is recommended to use shorter logic for fast execution and always divide you can divide in the functions. In the execution method, you can call those functions based on your logic. Okay, of course, there are more triggers supported as compared to workflows and Power Automate. This is something we saw. We can always triggered by the messages on which we registered. Plugins can be used. Okay, yeah, if your code is not written safely, that can definitely impact the performance of the system and experience also. Okay, so for Toikum today, I guess you get an understanding of the higher level of the plugin, how it executes, how we write the code, and there are few resources which you can get from the here links. Of course, you can go ahead and rate us if you would like to. I'll leave
Yeah,
this one
I
on
can
Adnan
see
usually.
Naveed's hand. If you
Yes,
can
please.
push it.
I'm coming to the questions. Sorry, Naveed, tell me.
Yeah,
Naveed, you
Naveed,
are
you
on
have
mute if you're
question?
speaking.
Right.
Okay.
I think
Until Naveed
he just
speaks.
Hello.
Yes, Naveed.
Hello,
Sir, I
Wahaj
have a
sir.
question with the previous screen like plugins image. You mean to say that before saving our record, we can compare the record with the image?
Okay, I'll explain you. For example, Let's say I enter here abc at example.com. Okay.
Right.
Now I save it. Sorry. Okay. Let's say if I am typing here abc1 or let's say xyz. Now when I save it, I need to write a logic that this xyz is my data after this record is saved. Before that it was abc. Now if I want to do comparison between these two, I need to use the images. So images are, if I quickly show you, I'll explain this later. You can register an image with the step poll. So you give it a name and you can select which fields you want as the pre-image or post-image data. So this is the data which is pre-save and post-save.
Right.
So as
Right.
an example, I told you, the credit limit is something amounts that we want to compare with the
Yes.
previous or existing, or we want to do logging. We also want the previous and the changing value. So in that case, we'll use images. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
got it, sir.
clear? I guess.
Yeah, yeah, sir. It is clear
Okay.
for me.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We have one more question. Abdul Aziz.
So as you said, try to measure as the operation stage, execution stage as the pre-operation, and mentioned later that if it is was post uh, operation, then it would have taken time, or after the refresh, it would have updated. But what about pre-validation?
Pre-validation runs before pre-operation, so that will also be updated. That is even
Updated
one step before the pre-operation.
name, even it is by default whenever you load the page. Is it like that?
See, the thing is, the system how it is designed is, let's say this page. As soon as I save the button, it automatically refresh. But plugins are not aware of form events because they run in the background. So what I'm trying to say is, if you do anything in the async, so you won't see the changes here immediately. Okay, so you don't link it with the form refresh or something. But why I said you can see the change immediately, because the record was not even saved. So system by default after save refresh the data once again. So it pulls the new value from the database. But the plugins work directly with the database or the data layer. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, there are
So
some details here. If you see the trigger point, or you can say the execution pipeline. Actually, in the plugin, we have only three options. We have pre-operation, pre-validation, and the post-operation.
hmm.
So that's the matters for a lot here, because post-operation means once the data is committed to the database. So this is something is going to be happen by the time it's already saved. Then system should act. So post-operation this way. Pre-validation will put it there whenever we need to validate anything. Means we have to verify the specific, you can say, values, or we have to put some condition on it. So we can do the validation, and the pre-operation before committing any change, system verify the things.
Okay, we have
Okay,
one
sir.
more question.
Yes, sir. I do have one question. Basically, two. Uh, when you elaborated that a plugin will only be implemented before the operation of 2 minutes. So what was that about? Can you explain?
Okay. So that means if you, let's say I'll share my screen. Yeah, it's already shared, right? So let's say if I'm doing a operation here, let's say I call a API, and that API I retrieve some data. Okay. So in that case, let's say if that retrieve operation takes more than 2 minutes and it does not respond, so it will not keep waiting. It will simply throw exception automatically. This platform will throw exception that your plugin has done the timeout. Okay. So that does it mean. So you need to write a code.
Okay.
You may need to make sure it should run within the 2 minutes. Anyways, 2 minutes too much. Even it should not take more than few seconds because it impacts the performance. But the system
Okay.
has
And
fail
sir,
proof of 2 minutes timeout.
okay. And sir, uh, what about this the function you used here, which is for the diagnostic purpose?
Yeah, this
That
tracing
function.
service. This
Yes,
is
tracing set.
so this is something I can use to log it, and that log will be available in the system in here. But again, that will cover in the next session because we need to explain that how to enable it and how it works. Yeah. So that
Okay,
is for
sir.
diagnostic. Like if you do any text logging or .NET logging, same thing you can do with this platform also.
Okay, sir, can you please repeat the name of the Chrome extension which you mentioned earlier? What was the name of the Chrome
Okay,
extension
there are
which we use for?
multiple. The one that I use is called Level Up for Dynamics 365 Power Apps. I can just ping it on the chat. But this is only for
Thank,
developers. So
thank.
yeah, because this can surpass any JavaScript rules and all also. So I would say only for developers.
But sir, yeah, this tool was quite useful in seeing the logical names for the columns.
Yeah, yeah, it has many features. As I said, if I click on all fields, this will give me the data of all the fields. I can search, let's say, what is last name, what's the data in there. Then one more important thing that we can do here is check the show option set values. Like if you have lists, what are their values? What is the value there? You can check. So there it has many things you can use. So I pinged the name here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. That's
See,
great.
the main advantage that you can get it there. This is the one level up, and second one is the power pen. So there are two, you can say, most famous. You can say the extensions are there, and it will help you to identify as well as to track the details. Because otherwise, you have to open up the customization either from the classical or legacy environment, or let's say the Power Apps Maker. You have to open the
Yes,
entity, you
that's
have to
right.
look for the details. So these tool will normally you can help you in specifically to identify, to trace the information whatever it's needed as a background.
Sure,
Yeah.
sir. Thanks for your elaboration.
Okay,
Thank you.
Naveed, I guess you have one more question. Or your hand is still
No,
up.
no, sir. There is no more question from my side.
Okay. So in the upcoming session, we'll give you the schedule because we are going really busy, Adnan and I. So I'll give you the schedule. In that, we will cover the images, and of course, we'll do the what we call it. I'll give you as an example here, the organization service also. This service will help us to retrieve data from related entities or any data we want from the system, create, execute actions, everything can be done through this object. Again, this is given by the our we'll get it from the context finally. So this link is very important if you want to just do practice. This is self-explanatory, I would say, in most cases. So just try it. I'll paste it here also and in the presentation as well. So you can at least have some time to look into this. Yeah, please, if you have any further questions or otherwise, we can just go to our
Just a one
yeah.
point here, for the next session, most probably we are going to schedule by, you can say, next Friday, because as we are going to have one you can collaboration with the Pakistan user group. So I think that will be very quite, you can say, difficult one if we are going to organize our next session on Tuesday. So most probably after consulting, you can say me and Wahaj, we will be planned for Friday instead of
Yeah, we'll
next
discuss
Tuesday.
that. That's
Yeah, we'll inform you.
okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
then I guess let's call it a night and see you next time.
Thank
Feel
you.
free if
Thanks a
you have
lot.
any questions or anything.